What's up, everybody? I am Steve, and with me, as always, is D. And you are watching Conversations with Cabys, the only show on the internet that feeds the fire,
Fans the flames,
marches through the macabre,
wanders through the weird.
and dares to ask the question. Today's question is Neuralink. What
What
is
is
it?
it?
Who
What
knows
is it about?
what's doing with it? We're gonna get deep
Who's
here.
behind it?
Who's behind it? Well, we're gonna get deep here. We're gonna talk about some big concepts and a lot of abstract, and there's gonna be a metric ton of what if. Because this is a very what if company, but a very cool company. It was started 3 years ago. Neuralink, founded by Elon Musk. And this is going to be kind of a three-part question series on Elon Musk's various companies, and kind of just a philosophy of the man, basically.
This is one of the many endeavors that he has started in his career, and it's a very broad career. We're not here to talk about all of those today, just this one in particular,
And
which is
we'll
Neuralink.
talk more in future question episodes where this starts the three-part series of it. Neuralink is a brain-computer interface company, started 3 years ago. What a brain computer interface is, and what there specifically is a brain machine interface, a BMI. It's a direct communication pathway between an enhanced or wired brain and an external device. So, um, in other words, it's an implant. This particular one is an implant in your skull, underneath your skull, to interface with a machine, an interface, an algorithm, a program that can do numerous things. We'll talk about what they're planning initially and what the future holds. The future holds is kind of the what if section, but it's a brand new company, started in 2006. Um, and really, what they want to do and what they've started to do and are in testing right now for is, or in preparation for testing for, is a interface, a small chip, if you will, and electrodes. Because when you're talking about the brain, you have to think about how it works. There are neural pathways. Those neural pathways have electrodes at the end of them that spark receptors when a certain task wants to get done by you. Essentially, it's an on or off inside the brain, microscopically down to the microscopic level where these pathways are at, that shoot electrodes or electrons, like an electric pulse that makes you do what you want to do, right?
Yep. And these electrodes are essentially little rods with sensory receptors on them, and they're just picking up those on-off signals as your brain produces them. And
Imagine it in the terms of like a diode, like the wired thermometer that you shove into a steak to test the temperature, right? But on the microscopic level, like
yeah,
a thinner than a human hair level. This
right,
that penetrates around a neural pathway
directly into your brain.
directly into your brain. And
And I forget the dimensions of the small section they have to cut away from the skull, but it's very small. I mean, I think it's under a half inch by a half inch.
it's definitely under a half inch. I want to say it's 9 millimeters, dilated to 8 millimeters in a 4 millimeter incision.
Okay, so it's really small.
It's less than a needed for a stitch. It's not in the white paper. It's probably in the white paper, but the white paper's big. Um, but regardless, it's extremely small, and it's a package, essentially a box that holds a gel coating, that is, uh, essentially, it works in a way to where you're not going to reject it by your body. It's
And the acidic nature of the brain is not going
right.
to deconstruct or
Harm
deteriorate the components.
this coating. Yeah, so there's a like a gel coating on the outside, which protects the package, the chip, and then protruding from the chip, um, from the housing are these threads. They have 1024 right now. Um, is like the size that I think they're going with. It may have changed just recently down
As
to
far as how many electrodes?
how many threads. Yes, how many
Yeah.
threads. It was 1024, I believe, was the last, but this has 256 channels here. But I think what they're going for is 1024. But anyway, the threads are as small as a human hair, and they actually had to make a new a machine essentially to implant the device in your head. So you sit in a seat, and there's a computer AI machine that a doctor drives that calculates heart rate, because essentially every time your heart beats, your brain moves in your fucking skull.
Yep.
So this thing has to calculate your heartbeats, heart rate, all this stuff to make sure that you're not penetrating a blood vessel, because the moment you penetrate a blood vessel, that equals stroke, that equals loss of brain function in very bad times. So this has to be
Yeah.
extremely precise and not capable otherwise without machine
Yeah,
input.
absolutely. This is impossible on this small of a scale for a human to do this.
So they had to essentially make the machine that implants the threads. But they did. And essentially what they're trying to do is target currently um, paralysis. They're targeting like quadruped, like from neck down spinal injuries, things like that.
Yeah. I forget, was it muscular or multiple sclerosis was one of them?
Multiple sclerosis is one of them. Uh, it was
Paralysis was another one.
yeah, I mean basic any paralysis, anything that is keeping your motor function down. If you've had, let's say, a stroke, um, it can help in that regard. Anything that bring motor function back via the brain interface. And essentially how they do that is they transfer the brain input of you wanting to do that thing into the right spot where your brain has damaged that pathway, that receptor. This is picking up that slack. This is actually like bridging the gap between those two things, right? And that's how it's working in that level. But I mean, it can work in they have currently right now people being able to move a mouse cursor, things like that. I mean, you're talking about you're going to be able to control the device from an app. Being able to control your mobile phone from the device is also like, that's ultimately during the trial. That's what they want to do. They want you to be able to
Yep.
move your body with it, it to know basic functionality, verbal, like for you, so you can write a message, things like that. You can talk on the phone with it, and it to be able to control the mobile phone. So
And
like
we're literally talking about having this brain implant, and while you're under recovery and monitoring and the trial phase of the of the implant, you're with your mind controlling your phone, right,
you
sending
have the phone
messages.
in your hand, right? The phone is in your hand, right? And I don't have to move my finger to control anything. All this stuff's going. It's just, it's. I'm thinking I want to go to Google, and the Google app opens.
Yep. And it's great that you bring that up, because that's the great kind of way that they described it. This is a currently we have a device that is capable of all the things that we want to do, and the connection to the information that we want to have. However, the problem is the bandwidth, the way we interface with it. It's with the phone. We have to use our thumbs, motor skills from the brain, have to tell the motor, okay, fingers do this. We the connection there is just too slow.
Well,
So
visually,
what's the
it's
best way
also
to,
too slow. It's visually we have to
and visually, yes,
visually
brain has to
represent this.
process it.
Yeah, all that stuff. Well, that's
So this is exactly where you cut all that out. You go directly to the source, connect, boom.
you think it does it right there. It's not. I don't have to move my fingers to do it. I think it does it. And that's really the starting point for all this. The next level is visual. Visually, I want to be able to not have to have the screen anymore. I want to be able to think about going to Google, and my Wi-Fi enabled implant goes to Google, and I visually see that. That's like the next. That's the next thought.
Or what if it didn't even like? What if there was no visual? Like if you didn't have like a lens or something like that was in front of your eye, or a contact lens that was your screen or whatever. Like let's say it was an actual, like it somehow you just closed your eyes and then boom, there
Right,
it is.
right. Visual, like the screen is now my eyes closing rather than the screen being in front of my face. That is this visually, some visual representation is the next step. We don't know what that is because it's so early, but they're working with Elon's other early startup, OpenAI, and OpenAI is Elon's co-founded thing that essentially Neuralink is shared with. They're both working on it together, for the AI algorithm to help in all of this, the machine learning needed in order to transpose your receptor pulses for I want to go to Google into actual
Information that can be
right,
processed
right,
digitally.
exactly, and be transceived over to the phone and any way that it can, because essentially your raw data, right? You're this very small piece of this big puzzle because it's a raw data of electric, just an electrical on off, one and two in my, or one and zero in my head, right? That makes everything work. It's it's really the chip's job, the infrastructure of the chip and the AI built into it that is responsible for everything else. And it's this is what Elon thinks is going to be the gap for symbiosis with machines. And rather than being taken over by AI, because that's his biggest worry probably, rather than, everybody's worried about thermonuclear war. No, being taken over
Or
by
AI,
AI is
or
what.
AI taking over and being, yeah, like the super race and determining that humans are obsolete
Right.
and
That's what he's
need to
scared of.
be.
This is the way
Yeah.
we merge that. We bridge that gap because our biggest problem is bandwidth. We are creating the capability of all the knowledge in the world. We are just incapable of receiving it all.
Right.
We need to be able to receive it all, and
And
that's what he's trying to do with this. But also, I mean, we need to start somewhere, and starting somewhere is this small scale. This is what the company is doing right now. Those are all grandiose things, but what the company is trying to do right now is help paraplegics and people with, um, multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's and those type of things.
yes, and there's many other applications that he is foreseeing this being possible to do that have no firm scientific evaluations done yet, but that's kind of where the direction's going.
That is where the
And another
direction's going. Yes,
another thing I want to mention before we get too far into this.
because we don't want to go. We want to make a firm decision with you guys that this is we're going into the what if section, that this is none of this has been said by them because this is very early. This is they're in trial phases right now with all of this and have not gotten FDA approval for human trials yet. They are also in recruitment phase for the best neuroscientists. I mean, Elon Musk is
Yes.
going to get the best people. You know this, and this. They're here with the chip and have the machines and are doing, and our FDA approval should be early in 2020. I mean, we're not far off here, but this is a very new company and a new thing and very new ideas. But I also think this is a thing that's going to, once it gains traction, that's it. We are going to be able to pinpoint, I feel like 2019, 2020 is the year that we turned into transhumans. Like it's not, we are going to merge
That's a
with
point in
machines.
history.
Yes,
That's a point in history that
this
will never
will
be forgotten.
right. This will be a thing. I'm not there's this. This is the start of something, and
Yeah.
it there's no stopping it. Once this train moves, once we get FDA approval, and once he cures a paraplegic, game fucking over. It is over. Elon is also the type of guy, and again, we're going to talk about Elon more specifically in a future episode of this. But Elon is the type of guy that I wholeheartedly feel that this will be $10 if he has any way of give it to everyone. We are going to make this thing as fucking easy to get to as possible, and we're not going to try to siphon money out of you and be a fucking pig about this. We want everybody to have it.
Right.
And ultimately, we're going to come into some what if sections about this. Ultimately, I think we as a human race will concede to that in a more specific way.
Okay, so there's one thing I want to talk about real quick
before we go into the major what ifs.
Yes.
Yep.
Because remember this, put a pin in this topic here. Healthcare and medical treatment. So just right there.
Yep.
Pin in that. But so one thing I wanted to mention is that the way this thing works is not only, it's just not the implant alone. You have this small, almost like I guess you could compare it to a hearing aid battery.
It is right behind your ear, and it is the
right
battery
behind
pack.
your ear.
It's a lithium-ion battery pack. There is no battery in your brain. There is no lithium-ion cell underneath your skull, which would be a very bad thing and a very troublesome thing, and obviously a safety concern. You're never going to get FDA approval if you have a battery pack implanted underneath the skull. Everyone knows that. But through wireless charging, it essentially the implant, and you can have they have verified that we could do up to 10 of these. 10 times 1024 electrodes in your brain, 10 times 1024 computers in your brain as well, because each of them is a capable computer, especially for the task at hand. If you're just doing a unitasker, unitasker is a very cliche and a very understated word for what it's actually doing, but it is a unitasker, meaning it's only transposing zeros and ones into a lot of other different things, but it doesn't need massive amounts of horsepower to do that thing, right?
Right, but you're talking the problem isn't horsepower. What the problem is when you need more of the processing power and the threads is to access different areas of the brain.
Exactly.
Because we all, I mean, this is going to be, I think, directed towards one centrally universal function for most people, but then it's going to also have a very specialized, targeted, implantation for different patients. Like this one's going to be over more on this area of the brain that controls fine motor function, and this one's going to be more on the area of the brain that controls cognitive and speech, and this is more going to be in the area of knowledge and retention and comprehension and things like that. So you're going to have it's all going to be very specialized and directed, prescribed specifically for a certain
I agree with that for a certain period of time. I agree with that. Until 5 to 10 years of FDA approval, I think 5 years is probably, hopefully, where we're talking. Because ultimately we want as much FDA approval as needed. But I also, if anybody on this earth, I trust Elon Musk. I do. I trust what he's trying to do. I trust what he's trying to do. And I trust the people around him, and I trust the fact that he puts smart people around him to help him with a lot of these things. With that being said, I feel like let's go into the what if. Let's kind of go into the what if, because I feel like, let me give you my timeline to this. Let me give you my thought process about this, because this is a very much as I said, this is a point in history moment, and that point in history ripples out and becomes vast and big.
Oh yeah.
So let me just start with the initials, the paraplegic, the mental illness, any mental illness, whether it be Alzheimer's. I feel like Alzheimer's is definitely possibly curable here. I feel like multiple sclerosis. I feel like Parkinson's. I feel like any mental deterioration, disease, or illness can be treated here. I feel like generally any spinal injury any spinal nerve injury can be treated here. Right. I feel like any motor function issue can be treated. Basically everything can be treated here. I think we can eliminate depression. I think we can eliminate the need of pharmaceuticals. I think there's a slippery slope big time there, though. When you talk about messing with the emotional state of people and bypassing certain emotional receptors and maybe problems within your emotional pathways, in your brain, right? That side of the brain. When you get over to that side of the brain, but cognitive motor function side of the brain, I think that is going to be the easiest pathway for FDA approval, and I think it works out great that our brain is split into hemispheres like that. And I think that's the start. I think really mental illness and quadriplegic and paraplegic is the start, and that's going to get us a ton of FDA data, FDA approval data, and it's going to get us a ton of AI data in order to move on to the enhancement phase of this for everyone. Because once FDA is approved, FDA. I think we're on kind of another wavelength, like another path, right?
As far as how to get to FDA approval, or
no, I think once we're on FDA approval and we have all this FDA data, I think we're at another point where we're beyond the fixing people, right? We're beyond we've gotten all that out of the way. We're like pretty much everybody who has, because I think that could be something that we roll out within the first, and with the help of a company that wants to facilitate basically giving it away. You know what I'm saying? Like making it the most affordable, and working with insurance companies to make it to where it's, on there. You know what I'm saying? Like trying their best to get it the lowest cost possible, right? For everything, for the surgery, for the implant, for everything. So in order to gain all this FDA data, because ultimately that's what they need data so they can expand it, because they'll get a little part of the brain, they'll get a little bit in FDA approval. Like this chunk, you can put it here to do all the things, because we know that we've done all the research and know that like specifically this part of the brain is where this person would benefit from, so they could walk again or whatever, right? We know that these receptors are broke, we can fix them here, right? We can rejigger where one of these go, like one of these electrodes go, like this pathway is broke, but we can bypass that pathway and do this thing, right? And that we can get them to walk again. We know this little itty bitty thing though, but that's a little bitty piece of the brain. With all that data from the FDA though, all of these patients, all of the flying good results, and everybody's fixed, and you get in a perfect situation with it going well, you get this kind of waterfall effect where everybody, like, it's just so easy, like aspirin or acetaminophen or ibuprofen. Like, we know these things work for headaches. Okay, we know this works for quadriplegic. We know this works for Parkinson's, right?
Right.
We have all that data. Okay, now FDA opens up the brain more to where we can do more with enhancing strength, enhancing muscle function, enhancing cognition. Open up the brain into other things. Maybe there's things that you can do with your brain that we forgot we could do, that this will open up.
Well, here's what I kind of wanted to, when I told you about putting that pin in the healthcare and medical side of things. So when this thing is getting ready to go public and in its trials for FDA approval, and when it's to that point, I have a feeling he's going to be met with a ton of resistance, because we still have a lot of
the money is not in the cure, and the money is in the medicine, and there is no medicine here. This is a cure.
This is a lifetime treatment to the human condition, almost. Like,
this is a cure for everything. This is a cure for dying. I mean, in a sense, this could very well be that. So if we, again, yes, I wholeheartedly think that the healthcare industry is going to be on his ass about this. But there are certain points to this. You don't fuck with disabled veterans. There are too many lobbyists here. Disabled veterans are a big if you tell a group of disabled veterans that they can walk again, that we can interface with a prosthetic to make it feel exactly like you're walking, who the fuck are you going to tell no to? Who the fuck are you going to tell no to? And who should? Fuck the healthcare industry if they're fucking trying to fuck this over. That's bullshit, man. That's a bullshit stance. Like, there's so many people that are going to get furious about somebody trying to not allow this to happen.
Right. Put the Gestapo on this.
Right. There's so many lobbyists. That would be a political change like no other, man. Because a lot of these people lean a certain way, and that would totally change their leaning if this were kiboshed by that certain group. You know what I'm saying?
This is also something crazy too. Like, this is no small feat. I mean, no. This is going to be hard to bring to the masses because it's such a.
But he chose a good starting point. Do you not feel like it's a brilliant starting point? If you tell anybody who can't walk that I can make you walk again, that is fucking it, my friend. That's it. You got
there's so many
everybody
reasons.
on board.
There's so many reasons.
And that's just one.
You want to have access to all the information that is available on the internet instantaneously.
Right. We're not there yet, though. Let's not go with that blue sky. But I'm just talking one thing, curing, and then we go to everybody who has Parkinson's.
Yeah.
We go to Michael J. Fox and his foundation, and we say, I can cure every single one of you guys. Do you want to play guitar even better than you can play with fucking Parkinson's, Michael J. Fox? Here's this implant. And oh, by the way, you control it with your iPhone. I mean, he's going to be, that's another disease. You line these people up, and we have too many people that are going to say, no, I want that. Because there's no downside. There's no side effect. It's work to get used to it, but there is an end to this. You know what I'm saying? And it's a quick resolution. It's not painful. Right. You're out in the same day. Like, he's thought of all these things. All the stopgaps in previous things. Nobody wants to wear a prosthetic that they can't feel. Nobody wants to try to do this when they can't really feel holding the cup. With this, you can interface with a prosthetic and hold the cup. Your brain thinks you're holding the cup. My leg's gone, but I feel my leg. My foot is itching, so I feel it. The phantom pains from people who've lost their leg, the phantom pain will be real because it'll be there. Like, you'll have a leg that is attached via Neuralink to your brain that feels like a real leg. You can move your toes. Like, prosthetics will go a zillion miles ahead. But everybody will want a prosthetic then, because we can put in prosthetics cool shit. I mean, you're talking. Well, there's just these small. I mean, everybody's going to say yeah. Who's going to say no?
Well, and this isn't going to be something either that just stops at this generation or iteration of the product. I mean, this is going to continue to be improved and enhanced and
smaller and differently implantable. The electrodes are going to be different. This is a brilliant starting point for a product that is going to advance leaps and bounds over the next decade into a point to where, I mean, it's going to start with the diseases, and then it's going to be, okay, what if I can put a sleeve on my hand that gives me bionic ability, essentially, or I put a vest on, or like a compression shirt that has nanomachines in it that are controlled by my Neuralink that allow me to pick up a semi-truck. And I want that. Fuck yeah, I want a nano shirt. But, okay, in 10 years it's a nano shirt. 10 years after that, it's, well, we've mapped the entire brain like the genome, right? And we know how everything works. Now, you really don't need the body anymore. So what if we go ahead and just take the brain, okay? Roll with me on this. Take the brain and put it in one of these Boston Dynamics robots.
You mean like the Atlas robot?
Like the Atlas robot. Or the Spot Mini. What if my brain holder was interchangeable? And I could just take it off the Atlas robot, and I'm still linked with the Atlas robot via Neuralink via my brain, so I still see all the stuff that I want to see, right? And what if visualization isn't there anymore, right? Because these eyes kind of suck and they get bad over time and fuck all that. What if our visual interface is now just a shit ton of sensors and we see in every dimension? Ultraviolet light, everything. And now I can see all this stuff in the world, and my Neuralink Atlas is being moved over to my Spot via Quick Connect, and I just lock onto the Quick Connect and Spot moves on. And all of these Boston Dynamics robots, like every application for what I want to do on Earth has a different modus operandi, a different body, if you will, that I connect to, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
So, like, and we don't need bodies anymore.
Right, but a few things come to mind when you bring that up, because yeah, it's essentially like you said, you map the entire brain, so you have the whole genome, every molecular structure, every nerve, where it goes, what it does, and everything like that, and you're fully downloading your brain to a machine.
Not quite yet. We don't necessarily, because we still haven't quite. I mean, you still need the meat sack to do all the stuff. Like, we still need these junctions of the meat sack to move it. We haven't got down to downloading it yet, but we've mapped it all, and we know what everything does. And because mapping is one thing, right? But being able to download it is a whole different ballgame, and still being you, ultimately, because you still want to be you. Ultimately, we still want the creativity, the feeling, the things we're not really sure about, like in our brain and where that's at and what it's about. But we'll figure those things out over this next, like, let's say 20 years, right? 10 years takes us to where we're enhancing ourselves with, like, nano machines and shit like that, and still utilizing our bodies. 20 years gets us to where we don't even care about our body anymore, and we're just using different variations of robots to do work, whether it be ginormous robots or small robots. But our brains are still there because we kind of need that still, right?
Okay.
We're still there. But it also... But in that 10-year period, when most everybody is starting to get the implant, I think we come into utopian society. I think this really would make us a path to where differences go. When your mind is open to every piece of knowledge there is, ultimately you're going to see how futile being shitheads to each other is. And we can also... That's a slippery slope, but I mean, there's also fixing that. But again, that comes into very problematic areas with the feelings, and you really want to be able to map the entire brain before you get down that rabbit hole, right? Of trying to fix emotions and fix personality and fix shit like that. You want to enhance. We never want to fix. We only want to cure disease and enhance the body. We don't want to fix you, right?
Right. You don't want to alter. You want to, enhance.
Enhance, right. And so, but enhancing yourself would ultimately make you see how futile it is. And also, at this point, this would level the playing field, essentially. Everybody would just be as intelligent as everybody else, have access to the same amount of data. Personal drive probably would still be there, but personal drive is kind of like, well, I want to do something. I have the nano machine, because we would essentially everything would go away. Capitalism would be gone. Everybody would have access to everything, and our ultimate goal, I think, in me personally, would be exploration. To map the cosmos, to get all the data we can. Data collection would be the new currency. Getting all the data we can out of the cosmos, right? And everybody would be wanting to collect that data, collect that currency, right? All of us. And we would be doing whatever we could to enhance that, to work in that field, and we do whatever we wanted to do. But capitalism as it stands would be gone, I would think. Like, there would be no money. Everybody would essentially have the same access to the same nano. Like, we would all give all that shit away in a very socialist kind of way, but not in the same sense, not in the same socialist sense, because there's not everybody, it's the same playing field, so everybody has access to the same amount of information, so you can't fuck anybody over, and if there is no money, you can't fuck anybody over either. So if everybody gets the nano machine, or everybody gets Neuralink, has the same shit, we all have access to, let's say, enhancing nano machines to where we can do whatever work we need to do, whether it be farming for ores, for fuel sources, creating machines. It's going to be a field like that. But ultimately, if you don't want to do anything like that, or you're too old, you can live in leisure and do whatever you want. I mean, there won't be an excess of because I think all food related illnesses are going to go away. I think that kind of depression aspect will go away. Ultimately I think it's going to strive for a utopian society when ultimately you can access all the information that you want. You're free to do so, and we've all collectively decided that we're the same. You know, there is no division at that point. All in the same field.
Do you think there's going to be the possibility that if you take like some sort of physical injury or physical damage, like let's say like a gunshot wound, that there's going to be any way for this Neuralink to either block the pain receptors from getting shot?
Definite. That's most definite. You wouldn't feel it,
so that you can recover, like, and do it on the fly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, to where you
100%.
get shot, you tell your boom, turn it off.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I think there's probably going to be a trauma sensor in the enhanced version of Neuralink, like in the enhancement version of Neuralink. I wholeheartedly feel like there will be a trauma like sensor. Essentially, anytime your body gets trauma, its job is to lessen said pain, and almost like how Tesla's autopilot works, how it and how all automatic braking in cars work now. It would ultimately, if let's say you're putting your hand on something hot, it would automatically remove your hand. Like the reflex, it would be your reflexes, but in AI fashion, like bionic reflexes.
Machine level response time.
It would block all that stuff and just fix like blistering wouldn't happen and things like that. Melanin creation could be good, like so people wouldn't get skin cancer and you would tan. Like when you're out in the sun, it would just produce a shit ton of melanin, and it would block all the sun's rays. And then when you would go in, you would go inside. It's almost like tinting for your body. That could be a thing. I mean, a gunshot wound, I don't think it could stop the blood. That's the issue with there, because you still have the circulatory system is a completely other animal than the neurological. So you're
right, and then we're not addressing that with this.
Right, we're not. Yeah,
but,
so that doesn't touch that. But
does the nervous system connect into the other systems where the brain also functions and connects to?
If we did have Neuralink nanomachines, like a whatever it is, whether it be my shirt is a bunch of nanomachines, well, that would totally. First off, the bullet would never get in if you had a shirt of nanomachines, because the nanomachines would ultimately, your body would see it. The Neuralink would like recognize it and have the nanomachines doing the work the moment it left the barrel. Like that would be how quick it would. It'd be like one frame in your eye, and all of it would already be done by the machines, and totally stop the bullet. It would be damn near instantaneous because it would be all it needs. Gunshots would be out of the gunshots would be totally nothing. We wouldn't have guns anymore. Like guns wouldn't matter. We wouldn't need them. What would we need guns for? Guns are designed to kill people. I mean, ultimately, and hunt prey. But if we have a nanomachine suit, no prey can get me. Try having a bear jump on a nanomachine, like on a suit of nanomachine. It would be like a shield where it would. I mean, all of it would have to be like carbon fibered nanos, but it would be probably billions. If it was a shirt, it would probably be billions of nanomachines that are able to move, like Big Hero 6.
But I was just gonna say, we're gonna go Big Hero 6 on this and do some nanomachines.
I mean, that is what he's doing. That is what he's doing. Those are nanobots. Well, it's literal. That's what it is. I mean, but we're talking on a microscopic level.
Right.
His were far bigger than that. And I'm not necessarily saying, I mean, ultimately it could do that, but you would need a lot of them. But then that's where nanomachines go around everywhere, and Neuralink interfaces with all of them. So you're like walking down the avenue, and you want a bridge to cross the river. We don't have to build one. We just have nanomachines all around that build the bridge for me. Neuralink says that I want that bridge there. I cross that bridge, and the nanomachines go back to whatever they're doing. Like, it's a true symbiosis with the Earth, us, interfacing with machines. It's the next level of human evolution, for sure. For sure.
Well, that changes everything too. I mean, that changes,
We don't
you
need
know, that
capitalism. We don't need any of this bullshit.
so you're saying that because that's going to eliminate completely uh, corruption and like evil per se.
Basically, yeah. I think ultimately, if we believe in the human good, that ultimately everybody is good, we take out all these forces, and yeah, sure, there's evil people, but if there are truly evil people, and the nanomachine, and if Neuralink can't fix it, or whatever it is called later on down the road, I'm just talking about an implant, because a neurological implant is basically what I'm talking about. Yes, Neuralink is the start of this, and I truly believe right now we are in a historical moment with Neuralink, and we are going to look back on this and say, yeah, this is when it started. And 20 years from now, when we're all fucking machines, you're going to come back and say Conversations with Cabys was right. but it that's the start of it. Everyone has an equal playing field, and if everybody believes in the same thing and has access to all the information, then we'll weed out all the corruption. We as a society will all work together. We can all talk instantaneously via Neuralink. All data is there instantaneously. And then, so let me go even bigger, because if I haven't gone big enough, let me go bigger. Okay, so we're talking 20 years down the road, we're all machines. And like I said, we got a brain cavity because we need the meat sack to do the work still, right? So we got a brain holder that interlinks with all these different robots, and we can do whatever we want. Sex is gone, unfortunately, guys. Sorry. We don't need it anymore. That it's a primitive thing, and we don't reproduce that way. Ultimately, probably we don't reproduce so much at all anymore. And if we do, it's only for the first 10 years. Because we can create whatever we want. Clone brains, clone ourselves, clone anything, make it whatever we want. We map the entire brain, so we know everything, right?
It's no longer about making a baby. It's about programming a consciousness.
Exactly.
Or creating an intelligence.
I mean, that is perfect. It is. Programming a consciousness. That's exactly what you're fucking doing. So, with that being said...
Man, that takes away all the human emotion and human side of the spectrum, though.
The only thing is left.
Love,
I mean,
sadness.
We can still love people. We can still love an interface with somebody. Like, you can still know your wife is your wife. That consciousness.
Yeah, but that construct's going to be gone too.
But it'll all be virtual.
Right. But I mean, are we even going to need that?
Well, I mean, what do we do in our leisure time when we want it to... our brain downtime, or virtual downtime? Well, we're probably going to the internet, and we'll all have our own spaces, and you'll literally... it'll be like VR, where you're walking down the street, and you'll pick wherever you want to go. And virtually you'll do it. Once we have no bodies anymore. But that person can look like whatever you want it to look like, and chances are good we'll keep the human construct of what a person looks like for a while. It's just easy to do that. And then you can go visit that person, see what you're going to do, work with them. Two interfaces working together to for common goals, things like that. You know, you'd have a partner that you work with. It wouldn't be so much like a romantic partner or a sex partner, but it would be a partner that you work with, or multiple partners that you work with. You know, and you move forward with that. And the work is exploration. The work is trying to figure out what's next and move forward and go on. And where we go from here. Where we go from here, once we have that figured out, it's going to take us a minute to figure out full consciousness, right? Full feelings, without the meat sack, getting rid of the meat sack, and really downloading our consciousness fully. Okay? But when we do that, what are we? Essentially just zeros and ones. Right?
Right. We're a digital footprint.
What we're doing is fully mapping our brain. Mapping our brain into a language and translating that language into digital programming language. That's exactly what we would do. That's how we would do it. It's going to take a while to do that. And to get consciousness right, and you to be you, and me to be able to transfer you from one robot to another in local space. But if I can transfer your consciousness from one robot to another in local space, I can do that across everywhere. And that's when we become the signal. That's when we become the last evolution. We are just energy. So I'm here on Earth. My consciousness is here on Earth. I want to go to Mars. So I transfer my signal to Mars because there's going to be a station on there where we exist and terraform and move and gain energy and try to expand and move forward and put more signals out there. Because ultimately, that's what we're looking for. We need more antennas. We need more satellites. We need shit in deeper space. So I want to go to like Neptune or one of Titan, one of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn. There's a signal there, so I shoot down that way via the speed of light.
Let me pull you back just a little bit because I just thought of something I want to think of before we get to that level of just being pure energy like that.
Okay.
What about if we get to the point to where we are intelligent enough to where we have been able to recreate a human body fully, nervous system, respiratory system, but it's perfect.
Clone one, basically?
Not necessarily clone one. I'm talking about constructing live tissue, like actually figure out how to
3D print a human.
Artificially reconstruct the living tissue to the point of where we can construct the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, everything.
3D print a human.
Yeah,
but with
it's
biological tissue.
It's the perfect form of the human body, and everything works, so perfectly. Everything is the way it was intended to be, disease free. Everything like that.
Okay.
And do you think we use that still as a part of your existence now, to where sometimes I ride around in my body, but then sometimes I exist only in the digital sense?
I don't think you're going to want to, and I think anybody who isn't a convert, because this is what makes you live forever as well. You're alive forever, because ultimately we would also have a way to where our brain would not deteriorate any longer. We would put it in a new goo. It wouldn't deteriorate. So the people that want to still have the brain sac, and don't want to become energy, can still stay in that form and probably be immortal. Or all you have to do is change the oil in your brain sac.
Sure, but you got to understand too that first generation, that large first generation of people they may die off, but also too they are going to get into this understanding of this new utopian environment and what life is like post artificial intelligent brain implant.
Yeah.
And if they get to the point where like you say, over 10, 20, maybe a little bit longer, 30, 40 years,
sure,
we're getting to the point of where we're no longer, like you said, no longer need love, no longer need marriage, those kind of social constructs and physical constructs of humans.
Right.
Do you think that first generation of people who are alive to be a regular human and have made the transition into this new, being along the evolutionary timetable that's going to unfold, do you think they're still going to hang on to those humanistic desires and needs to where they still want to retain a body and they still want to have that sort of...
Some will, I'm sure. I'm sure there's going to be a percentage that will, but imagine this, okay? So those people that are the holdouts, okay, I think that percentage is going to diminish the longer we get down the timeline, because those that don't die of something naturally, because ultimately we're going to be able to prevent it. And if you do, because I think they'll still get implants. I think you'll still get Neuralink. Why wouldn't you? Get the gen that works with the body, because I'm sure there's going to be various levels. I mean, you're going to still be able to have various levels of this. Like the Neuralink that still works with the body, I have that. That also prevents me from getting heart disease, any brain illnesses, lung cancer, any cancers. I mean, ultimately, you add in the little nanomachine aspect. We're gonna go ahead and just throw in 1 million nanomachines in your blood, to where it just gets rid of any cancer, or any of that other bad stuff. Yeah, it's just like an oil change. It's nothing. It's not. You're still you. You're still your body. It's none of that crazy stuff those kids are fucking doing. I know. I don't like it either. I think it's insane. It hasn't been tested long enough. Don't get me started, Bob. Don't get me started on it. But this is good. Nanomachines, you'll like it. Don't worry. and it'll help you live a lot longer. Okay, so we won't have to worry about it. And it'll go with that, right? So Bob will take his nanomachine injections, and he'll be good. And he'll get it. Yeah. I mean, I got to go in every 2 or so years and get the bad ones taken out that killed the cancer cells and got rid of my clogged arteries and those things. But it's okay. It's like fucking just giving blood. It's cool. I don't mind it. Go in and get, they're talking about the new nano machines that are really cool that may help me walk a little easier. I'm thinking about getting that. Maybe upgrading. Just, treat myself. And Bob goes along like this for 50 more years. Bob's about 120. Still looking awesome. Slaying it. And he's like, but he's feeling it. He's feeling it coming on. And things are just not as good as they used to be. And he's seeing all the new models of stuff coming out. And maybe he'll try a prosthetic. Maybe I'll just try a prosthetic because these knees suck. Let me just get him changed out. Let me get my legs changed out. And Bob goes and gets one thing changed out and likes that a hell of a lot better. And Bob goes and gets another thing changed out because he likes that a hell of a lot better. And before you know it, Bob's fucking everybody else. There's going to be a lot of Bobs. There are holdouts for a little bit, but once you start tasting it, and this is true, there's no side effect to this. I mean, all of this is good. When we're at this point, everything wrong has been vetted.
Right. Do you think now, before we get rid of the need for reproduction, do you think that we'll just start doing this like standard issue, like, okay, baby's born in the hospital, boom, implant goes right in?
It'll be as easy as getting a circumcision. It'll be as trivial as that.
So you're gonna have,
but that is we're starting it early, and that's just for learning. Okay, it is a small baby AI that helps them with reading, writing, motor function, walking, all that stuff. Gets them walking way earlier. Potty trains them because we like that. That's easy. Gets them potty trained. Gets rid of all that little itty bitty stuff. I mean, for the first 6 months of the first 6 weeks of the baby's life, the baby's going to be the baby. But this helps them receive more data quicker, helps with visual acuity quicker, takes an assessment of everything in the body, like gets basically a readout. It's almost like an ODB2 scanner for a car. You're looking and just getting all the diagnostic of everything that's going on with the baby.
You finally understand what's wrong with the baby.
Right, and you figure it out, and then as we go on, I would imagine there's probably going to be like a 1-year-old upgrade, a 3-year-old upgrade, a 5-year-old upgrade, and a puberty upgrade. And then you get your adult one at, 15, 16 or something like that, because we want them to age mature faster. And at 15 or 16, they're out in the world. They've learned everything they already knew by puberty, probably. Like they can.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is like the adult age, other than physical growth. I mean, physical growth, you could 10. Be mentally, like right. You could be mental adulthood. Yeah.
Yeah, right at puberty. So you can figure, which I think will help with puberty, because you're talking about having the mental cognition of an understanding of an adult at that volatile age is great. You're like, oh, okay, fuck it. I mean.
And your hormones don't have to go crazy.
Right.
Your hormones don't have to go crazy because it could be
totally controlled by the Neuralink. Yes. Now you.
Wow.
Yes, all of that. Like it's everything. It's everything.
But again, do we want that? Do we? Is there a way? Is it an option? Like, is it now that the idea?
Try to converge it. That's the thing. We have to keep what makes us us. What makes me funny. Right. What makes us work. You know what I'm saying? Like the way you and I play a song together. Like whatever that is. We need that still. There's so many things that we don't know yet that we need to know. That's why analysis, logic, that left side of the brain really is where we're going to live. Like that's where Neuralink is going to live for a while. And that's where curing all this stuff and the enhancement process will get us more understanding of what we need moving forward. And ultimately get us to be part of the signal. Because ultimately, I feel like that's what my idea of heaven is. Us transferring back to the energy. And hopefully, if we're lucky enough, our cognition, what makes us us, travels on that energy too. So we remember who we are and remember who we've loved and, you know, all those great things that everybody thinks heaven is.
So we continue to live on, like, in this ultimate final form of existence. We continue to live on in this energy, and then we bounce around the solar system or the galaxies.
Well, I mean, humanity's mission is to use this energy and have it be in machines, have this energy be transferable into machines so we can move the signal, move it out further, out further, out further, until we can figure out maybe where we don't need the signals anymore. Maybe we don't need these repeaters on planets. Maybe we don't need these constructs. Because essentially what I'm talking about is there's going to be a colony on Mars. That'll be like the first. The Moon and Mars will be the first two colonies that will have a signal station, like a place where you can transfer your cognition from machine to machine and interplanetarily. Like from here, we'll have one here, and we'll shoot to Mars and be at Mars and however the hell that long. I mean, the speed of light from Mars to... I don't quote me on the fucking math, but 30 seconds. Okay, let me just say 30 seconds.
Whatever.
It's gonna be fast. Okay, we're speed of lighting it here. So you fucking go to Mars, and we have a colony on Mars, and that's where a bunch of consciousness are in machines, and there'll be a virtual lobby there. I'm sure there's got to be a way for you to, when you get to Mars, your consciousness goes into like a signal station, and imagine that signal station is whatever the fuck you want the signal station to be, ultimately, because all we're trying to do is interface with each other, interface with the consciousnesses. The consciousnesses that are working there. So there'll be a receptionist conscious that likes talking to new people. That's what they do, and they direct people to work that needs to be done, because work still is going to need to be done to gain power to build whatever vessel we're going to be traveling upon at that time, because we don't know.
Right.
And we're going to talk more about vessels and things like that probably in SpaceX. So I'll get into more specifics probably on that. But I would imagine it's going to be very lightweight because we're not going to need a body in it. We'll just need a bunch of storage space and power to leave us there in a capsule, and like the initial robots that we're going to need to make more robots, ultimately. But we can also send multiple ships with robots in it. But you're talking about not needing any food storage. You're talking about not needing any life support systems. You're talking about not needing any of the things that make spaceships weigh a lot. And again, we're going to talk about that in the SpaceX one. That'll be the last of the three of these Elon Musk ones. But that's our goal as humanity, is to push the signal, to get in these ships and go multi-solar system. I'm talking Andromeda Galaxy. I'm talking about, Alpha Centauri. Everywhere. Like, that's the ultimate goal. Like, that's what you're doing. You're trying to push yourself out and see what else is there. Where can my energy take me? And you're living forever.
Do you think in this, like you said, we're going to get to the point where we have like all this additional types of senses and vision? Like we'll have, like you said, infrared and night vision and things
like this. And I'm talking about, in the spectrum of the machine, we will have every type of sensor that we can find. Because, ultraviolet, infrared, every dimensional sensors, like it's, the five senses aren't all the senses. That's not all of that you could possibly see with sensors. So I'm talking every type of one. Each machine would have it. And you're seeing, obviously the first thing that comes to my mind is the complete red screen with just a bunch of data in different quadrants and like the arrows pointing in eight lines pointing in different compass directions so the robot can see in a vertical, like, I imagine that's going to be pretty good for our consciousness, right? Like that type of machine interface. Because that's ultimately what it is. We're playing a game now. Because our consciousness is just in this machine and we're driving the machine around. And we need to be able to visually see, or sensory read what we see, but it's pleasant to have that feedback. You know what I mean? Especially in the construct sense. Like you need that feedback. You need, and they're building the feedback in. That's why the Neuralink prosthetics are going to work well, is because they have that built-in brain feedback. Right. There's the feeling of touch. There's you have to have that. It can't just do it. It has to respond back.
Right.
And that we're like still gonna need. Right. It's like tactile feedback or anything else. We're still gonna need that for a while. Ultimately, there's going to be a point when we don't. But, and also, I mean, we don't necessarily need to be in the machine, right? But because the AI can run the machine too. You know what I'm saying? It's all AI can do pretty much everything that we want it, but it's our option to do that, right? And it's a merge with it. Like it is a merge with the machine. And I mean, ultimately, if we keep our consciousness and keep our creativity, I think exploration would be the ultimate goal. In a utopian society, exploration would be the ultimate goal. And trying to see how far out in the cosmos we can get. Because that's where we are. We are here on this planet, on a big fucking rock, out in the middle of fucking nothing. And ultimately, I think we as humans would want to see it all. If we had no other worries.
I think along the way there's going to be some conflict that arises.
Oh, most definitely. This isn't perfect by any stretch, because we're not perfect.
There's going to be social conflict, just people, the general public versus the general public, people taking stances on, is this morally right? Is this acceptable? Is this, is this really the way we should be going? And it's a temporary, this is just a phase that it's going to go through.
Sure. But I think being that, I think that phase is going to be short-lived and smaller than what it would be if it was other things, because of how he's starting it. It's very wise to start it by trying to cure disease and cure disabilities.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
That brings a crowd of people to your side straight from the jump. And that people can't argue with those people. You can't.
You also got to think, though, the pushback he's going to get from maybe part of the government and or part of the pharmaceutical, medical
agree. All
industry.
Of that I agree with. All of that I agree with, and it's going to be a hard road. I agree. But
it's a lot of power and a lot of financial backed.
It is, but it's also a very important. It's very important. This is the most important thing, and I think it's going to be better than what we hope. And in a perfect, what I'm proposing is all in a perfect scenario. I mean, all of this is certainly just get to thinking about what's possible. All of this is possible.
I think it's going to be, if you leave it up, if you leave it up to the people's popular opinion, this is definitely going to be something that the mass of the society would want and would accept.
Right.
But, again, does that
after all the kinks are worked out, most definitely as well. And that's why starting with diseases is also good, because you're fixing something that's broken. You have a purpose for your mission. That mission then is also data collection. In that data collection point, we're going to learn how to enhance people, and then with enhancements, there's no downsides. Everything needs to be a 100% win, a no-lose scenario. As long as we have zero loss, we'll be great. That's how you win. That's how you win here. That's how you get the hearts and minds of people, because it's going to be a scary topic. And there's going to be a point in this where I can see some political debate within the next, not this election and probably not the next election, but the election after that, where this is going to be a hot button issue. Transhumanist movement. I didn't coin the phrase, but that's going to be something that's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, we are not, this isn't,
a whole new set of rights for those people, and do we hold them by the same? Do we hold them by the same human and civil rights, or do we rewrite the whole thing and start from scratch?
But I think there's going to be enough people, and enough people are going to want it, and enough people like us that have free thought that is with the proper vetting and proper bench cases and case studies and kinks worked out of this that would gladly hop on board. If I can
Absolutely.
access all data, I would do it right now. I would tell you right now, I would do it 100%. I would do it in a second. It would be amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm uh, I'm excited. I really am. This is the future I want. Ultimately, I mean, I want a future of exploration. I want to ultimately. I mean, obviously, who doesn't want to be immortal? But um, I also want a future of exploration, a future where we can create on other planets, and where we fix the constructs that make us hate each other.
Fallible.
Right. Get rid of the bad, and we all focus on the good and how we can better each other and better the human race. And if
It
it
would
can be
be
a unification, it would totally unify us.
it would be very cool if it could unify the people, and if and honestly along the way, like while it's coming to fruition for the masses, like if it could be the thing that brings the human race together, you know, to work for a common goal.
Right. And I think it definitely could. I think it definitely could. And I think what's helping in that, this is coming along at the right time with as much climate change is going on right now and as worse as it is, and how it's not everybody said to close on a very short talk about climate change, because I'm going to keep this to a minute. Everybody said that climate was changing and we need to stop with our greenhouse gases and all this shit in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten so exponentially worse in such a short period of time. It's scary. I mean, it's almost like they didn't plan enough. They didn't say enough. Well, if we keep doing this, it's going to get exponentially worse every year. Like in 10 years, it's going to be 4 times, 10 times as bad if we don't stop now. Like it's very interesting how fucked it's getting, and we need a unifier. We do. As a human race, we need a unifier. There are too many of us pissing in the wind that don't have a goal, and there are too many people with shit ass goals that need to get kicked out or get on board or kicked out of something that's going to make us all better rather than fucking dividing us.
Yeah. You give us the information, the tools, and the resources to better ourselves as individuals, better ourselves as a race, and as a people. And I
You'd
mean,
be amazed what
there's
we can
nothing
do.
you can't do.
Yeah, you'd be amazed what we can do. And that's a great way to close it on hope. And this is what I'm hopeful for. Something
Hopeful
that
for
brings us
Neuralink.
together. Hopefully, Neuralink brings us together. That's what I'm hoping for.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you, Elon. The next question episode is going to be on Tesla. Look for that one in a couple weeks. Um, yeah, hope you guys like this one. I went deep, folks. I'm sorry if you did not follow. I hope you followed because it was some good shit.
Yep, should be a lot of good stuff in there for you. As always, leave a comment below on your thoughts on this whole process. If you're for it, against it, if you want to hear more, we'll have some links down in the video description, different articles and a couple different videos about the press release for Neuralink from Elon himself. So check it out.
Give us a like and subscribe. As always, be good to each other. We love you guys. Deuces.
Much love.